consideration of the rights and benefits granted to company hereunder, the company will pay KL2, which is Kawhi, $28 million in cash during the term of this agreement. Company will pay KL2 $7 million each year of the term.
That is Kawhi Leonard's autograph, right next to Andre Charity, the CEO's autograph.
According to the contract language, in consideration of the rights and benefits granted to the company herein, the company will pay KL2, Kawhi Leonard's business entity, $28 million in cash. During the term of this agreement, the company will pay KL2 $7 million each year.
What David's looking at with his glasses on is a bankruptcy filing, and there's a list of creditors. The entities to which Aspiration and all of their alleged fraudulence still owes the most money. And what I noticed is what David is noticing right now, which is that on that list of creditors, up near the top, above the Boston Red Sox, is an LLC. A tiny little company that Aspiration owes $7 million. And that LLC's name, David, is what?
KL2 Aspire LLC.
Kawhi Leonard has just been found guilty in a $28 million fraud scheme, a scandal that threatens to erase his entire legacy. The quiet superstar collapsed under the weight of the verdict, leaving fans stunned and the NBA shaken. But the real question remains, who else knew about the deal, and could more names be next? The scandal has unfolded in waves, denials, investigations, and a league in shock. The bombshell that would forever change how the world views Kawhi Leonard didn't come from the basketball court, but from the sterile pages of a bankruptcy filing. When Aspiration, the environmental startup that once promised to plant trees and save the planet, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in March 2025, eagle-eyed investigators uncovered something that sent shockwaves through the NBA. Buried in the creditor list was a seemingly harmless entry. KL2 Aspire LLC owed $7 million by the failed company. The listed manager? None other than Kawhi Leonard himself.
Did you ever see proof of Kawhi Leonard marketing or endorsing Aspiration in any way?
Never, not once. The single largest payment to an individual for marketing that Aspiration ever made has completely evaded all press. It's honestly incredible. And it was a very strong pain point for our marketing team. And honestly, altruistically, their job is to get Aspiration's name out there. They don't understand why the largest part of their budget that they've actually blown is not delivering.
But this was only the tip of the iceberg. What investigative journalist Pablo Torre uncovered next would shake the very foundation of professional sports. Through extensive interviews with 7 former Aspiration employees and the acquisition of signed contract documents, Torre revealed that Leonard had agreed to a staggering $28 million endorsement deal with the company. The most damning detail? Leonard appeared to have performed virtually no work for this astronomical sum. The smoking gun evidence came directly from inside Aspiration's finance department. Employees were explicitly told this wasn't just any endorsement deal, it was salary cap circumvention, carefully disguised as legitimate business. Even more shocking was the casual way the fraud was discussed internally, complete with LOL reactions in correspondence. That flippant attitude revealed the brazen nature of a scheme that would ultimately bring down the company, and potentially Leonard's career.
The NBA told me that their investigation is underway, and it will most certainly include interviews with key subjects as part of both the Clippers side, Kawhi Leonard himself, this company, and the league's investigation at the heart of it is going to be searching for concrete proof, a potential paper trail to show whether there was cap circumvention done.
Connection to Clippers owner Steve Ballmer made the scandal even more explosive. Ballmer had invested $50 million of his personal fortune into Aspiration just weeks before Leonard's contract extension with the Clippers. The timing was suspicious enough to raise immediate red flags about potential salary cap circumvention. A violation that carries severe penalties, including massive fines, the loss of draft picks, and even the voiding of player contracts. The NBA's response was swift and decisive. The league immediately retained the prestigious law firm Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen and Katz, the same firm that conducted the Donald Sterling investigation, to launch a thorough probe into the allegations. This wasn't just any routine review, it was the kind of high-powered legal scrutiny typically reserved for the most serious violations of league rules.
And frankly, any speculation would be crazy. These were guys who committed fraud. How would I be able? Look, they conned me.
Stakes couldn't be higher. Historical precedent from the Minnesota Timberwolves' Joe Smith scandal in 2000 showed that proven salary cap circumvention could result in devastating consequences. The loss of 5 first-round draft picks, millions in fines, and suspensions for team executives. For a franchise like the Clippers, who had mortgaged their future to build around Leonard and Paul George, such penalties could prove catastrophic. Steve Ballmer's response to the allegations was a mix of damage control and genuine bewilderment. In an exclusive interview with ESPN's Ramona Shelburne, the Clippers owner vehemently denied any wrongdoing. At the same time, he admitted he felt misled, and possibly conned, by Aspiration's leadership.
He didn't have to do anything. There was a clause for an out in every single KPI. So they weren't actually key performance indicators, KPIs. They were, if you feel as though this is something that doesn't align with you, or it's too big of an ask, or maybe you don't want to post on social media, maybe you don't want to wear our gear, just let us know, or you don't have to let us know, you just don't have to do it.
Ballmer's defense hinged on several key points that cast him as a victim rather than a perpetrator. He emphasized that his $50 million investment in Aspiration was made independently of any knowledge of Leonard's deal and that he had no control over the company despite the size of his stake. He also noted that the Clippers only introduced Leonard to Aspiration after both agreements had already been finalized. The billionaire's frustration was palpable as he described feeling betrayed by a company he had trusted with his environmental initiatives and charitable giving. The most damning revelation about Leonard's contract, however, came from its structure. Unlike typical endorsement deals that require active participation, Leonard's agreement was specifically designed to allow him to collect millions without lifting a finger. The contract even included explicit clauses permitting him to decline any requested actions if they conflicted with his personal beliefs, a term left deliberately vague, creating a loophole large enough to drive a truck through.
Having said that, let me tell you what really stands out with me and why I said, believe it or not, some of this is believable. Because there's a sentence in here where it says, the deal was with Kawhi Leonard's company, KL2 Aspire, LLC, and included clauses allowing Leonard to do nothing, yet still collect payment. That's the Kawhi Leonard I know. Doing nothing and getting paid for it.
The Clippers organization issued a strong and unequivocal denial, insisting that neither Steve Ballmer nor the franchise had circumvented the salary cap or engaged in any misconduct related to Aspiration. They asserted that any claims to the contrary were demonstrably false. Still, in the court of public opinion, their denials were met with skepticism and heavy scrutiny. The basketball world's response was swift and sharply divided. ESPN's Stephen A. Smith delivered perhaps the harshest critique, labeling Leonard the worst superstar he had ever seen, not because of his basketball talent, but because of his perceived lack of effort in promoting his team and the league as a whole.
Kawhi asked for partial ownership of the Maple Leafs. Do you know how insane that ask is? I'll take some of the hockey team too.
The reaction from other NBA players was notably muted. Only Indiana Pacers guard Tyrese Halliburton broke the silence, joking that he wanted a similar no-show job for himself. But behind the humor, the quiet response from Leonard's peers spoke volumes. It reflected the seriousness of the allegations and the potentially seismic consequences for the league. The most damaging revelation came when Aspiration's co-founder, Joe Sandberg, pleaded guilty to wire fraud charges. Sandberg admitted to defrauding investors and lenders of more than $248 million by making false claims about the company's assets and operations. This admission cast Leonard's lucrative deal in an even darker light, fueling speculation about whether he had been complicit, or simply an opportunistic beneficiary of a corrupt system. The financial implications for Leonard were staggering. With an estimated net worth of $120 million, built largely from NBA contracts and endorsement deals, he now faced the possibility of crippling penalties and devastating reputational damage. Sponsors and corporate partners would almost certainly hesitate to align themselves with an athlete engulfed in such a scandal. Perhaps the most shocking element of Leonard's contract was how blatantly it undermined the fundamental principle of endorsements, that the endorser actually endorses. Internal documents showed Aspiration's marketing team was deeply frustrated by their inability to use Leonard in campaigns, despite paying him more than all their other celebrity partners combined. The company had assembled what it dubbed the Celebrity Avengers of Climate Change, including Leonardo DiCaprio, Drake, and Robert Downey Jr., all of whom actively promoted the brand. Leonard alone stayed silent, quietly collecting millions while contributing nothing. As the investigation dug deeper, even more disturbing details emerged about Leonard's relationship with Aspiration and the broader pattern of questionable deals that had followed him throughout his career. The basketball world watched with bated breath as one of its biggest stars stood on the brink of sanctions that could forever stain his legacy and derail a Hall of Fame career. At the center of it all was the Steve Ballmer connection. The relationship between Leonard and the Clippers owner had long been portrayed as a partnership between a brilliant businessman and a stoic superstar. But the aspiration scandal revealed something far more complicated and potentially sinister. Their story began in 2019, during Leonard's headline-grabbing free agency. Ballmer's relentless pursuit ultimately convinced Leonard to leave the defending champion Toronto Raptors. What the public didn't know was that their relationship would soon be shadowed by controversial financial arrangements and risky decision-making that would explode into the biggest scandal in modern NBA history. The seeds of controversy were planted almost immediately. In December 2019, the NBA opened an investigation into tampering allegations tied to Leonard's recruitment, specifically the extraordinary demands made by his uncle and advisor, Dennis Robertson. Reports suggested Robertson had approached multiple teams with proposals that went well beyond normal contract negotiations. The Lakers were allegedly asked to provide Leonard with a luxury home, unlimited private jet access, and guaranteed endorsement deals. Most brazen of all, Robertson reportedly demanded partial ownership stakes in franchises, including an audacious request for a piece of the Toronto Maple Leafs hockey team during talks with the Raptors.
And then, if you will, there's an email on November 1st, 2021 from Steve Ballmer, personally connecting the CEO of Intuit with Andre and Joe.
Andre and I admire Intuit's commitment to sustainability and your smart partnership with the Clippers! Exclamation point. Go Clippers! Exclamation point.
Less than a month after that exchange,
just 3 months after the signing of the extension,
Kawhi Leonard and Uncle Dennis registered KL2 Aspire LLC.
The internal workings of the aspiration deal revealed a troubling level of coordination between Steve Ballmer and Kawhi Leonard that went far beyond mere coincidence. Investigators uncovered internal emails showing Ballmer personally involved in linking aspiration executives with outside business partners, highlighting his unusually hands-on role in the company's operations. The timeline only deepened suspicion. Within a few short months in late 2021, Ballmer invested $50 million of his personal fortune into aspiration. The Clippers announced a massive sponsorship deal with the company, and Leonard quietly registered his own KL2 Aspire LLC. Taken together, these moves painted a picture of calculated orchestration rather than happenstance.
It's called termination. It's when would an agreement be terminated? So when can they say, you know what, we're not paying you? And normally there would be provisions for termination if you're a felon, if you're convicted of a felony, sometimes if you're just arrested for a felony, if you do anything for disparagement, if you bring bad juju upon the company, it can trigger a termination. This termination, and it's a termination for cause, which
This is in the aspiration endorsement deal.
This is in his $28 million endorsement deal. Termination for cause if Leonard is no longer an employee of the team for any reason, and the team, capital T, is defined as the Clippers.
yes.